This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, and today we're going to do an intro into retargeting options for retail and e-commerce stores. Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, where I, Selena Knight, share strategies, interview retail revolutionaries, and delve into the minds of e-commerce experts to help you grow a profitable, independent retail or e-commerce business. If you're stuck in a rut, or if you feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've overachieved all of the things that you've set out to and are wondering what to do next, or how do I even make this better? I know that you're going to love today's episode. If you're stuck in a rut, feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've achieved all of the things that you set out to and are wondering what next, or how do I even make this better? Then I know that you're going to love today's episode. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. I'm your host, Selena Knight, retail strategist. Can I just say it is an honor for you to let me have that little bit of time in your day, because I know that you are super busy. And hey, thanks for letting me hang out with you. And while I'm sharing my gratefulness around, can I just say a great big thank you to Jessie Doody, who left me a review over on iTunes. And it's a 5-star review titled Podcast Gold. I just discovered this while looking to grow our retail business, The Happy Cabin. So many interesting and relevant topics and guests. And yes, I am binge listening to them all. Excellent stuff. Thank you, Jessie Doody, for sharing a little bit of review love. And if you would love to send me a review, head over to iTunes or Stitcher, wherever it is that you listen to the podcast. And I would love it if you could leave a review, and I might give you a shout out on the next episode. So this month here on the podcast and inside our retail collective, we're talking about increasing revenue. And we're doing that in terms of increasing our customer database and increasing our sales and really tightening up our marketing. So today's episode, I want to talk to you about retargeting. And this is going to be a little bit of an intro episode. But I'm not just going to be talking about the most classic form of retargeting, which is on social media or Google Ads. I'm going to be expanding outside the box a little bit. So if you thought this was all about using Facebook ads or Google ads, nope, I'm going to give you more than one strategy, and maybe you're not actually using it just yet. So stick with me. And just before we jump into this episode, I am going to be speaking at Inside Retail Live, all about how to build a brand that chain stores can't compete with. So if you want the insider scoop on how to do that, come and join me down at Inside Retail Live from the 26th to the 27th of February down in Melbourne. And I even have a special discount code. If you use the code SK25, you'll get 25% off of your tickets. Yay, here we go. Talking about saving money already. Now, we'd all like to think that if someone visits our website or comes into our store, they're going to buy something, right? But the fact is, 97% of online visitors and probably more than half of your in-store customers aren't going to buy on their first visit. But what if you could communicate and then sell to all of those potential customers? That would be a huge bonus, right? Well, you've heard the stat that a customer has to interact with your brand 7 or 14 or 27 times before they buy. I swear the number seems to go up as our attention span with technology seems to shrink. But people have to interact with your brand several times before they purchase. That much we know is fact. And if you follow me over on Facebook and you saw last Friday night's meal prep and marketing strategy, you'll know all about how it took me probably 500 views of an ad to convince me to buy a bed for my dog. Now, if you don't follow me on Facebook, I highly recommend it, because on Friday nights, I do a little very impromptu Facebook Live called Meal Prep and Marketing Strategy. And I throw out some gold nuggets of marketing strategy, and you can join me while I have a glass of wine and I prep dinner. So in last week's episode here on the podcast, I talked about the importance of building your customer database both for on and offline stores, so that you can market to potential customers without eating into your profits. And today's episode follows on. Today, I'm going to talk to you about retargeting, which is sometimes called remarketing. Same. I'm going to give you some tips for retail and e-commerce stores. So that bed that I was just talking about, it is called a cloud bed. And if you're on Pinterest, and probably on Instagram, you've probably seen the ads for it. It's a big round bed with kind of an edge that goes around the side, and when the dog hops in, the edges pop up, and I guess it's like a cloud. And greyhounds are notoriously a little bit anxious with things like thunder and very windy days. So I thought this might be a really good test, I guess you could say, to see if this bed was comforting, because that's what all the ads were saying. And I'm not joking when I say that I saw that ad on Pinterest around 500 times before I bought. I've been hanging out a lot on Pinterest because we're doing some renovations to the house. So I'm always making boards, Pinterest boards of all the different rooms and things that I like. And if you've been on Pinterest lately, you'll know that there's probably, 9 images on a screen when you're on the iPad, and 3 of those are ads. So it doesn't actually take long to see an ad 500 times, especially when they keep repeating the same ones over and over again. Now, just like a lot of customers, when I see your product and your social media post and your Instagram ad, maybe I'm not ready to buy right now when I see it, but that doesn't mean that I won't be in the future. Do you understand? And if your ad isn't the one that crosses my path right when I'm thinking of buying, then you're probably going to lose sales to your competitor who is also targeting me. And this is exactly what happened. On about the 501st time that I saw the ad, I think maybe Ed got a little bit sick of me sticking the iPad in his face going, "Oh, look at this bed. I think Cav needs this bed." When he said, "Can you just buy the damn bed?" And so I did. Right then and there, I clicked and I bought the bed. But it took so many times of me seeing that ad before I was ready to buy. And to be honest, if a competitor's ad would have come up, I just would have bought then and there. So retargeting is my number one go-to first campaign that I ever set up for clients, because generally it's cheaper to advertise to a retargeted audience because you've already done the hard work and you've either gotten them to your website, or you've gotten them to engage with you, or you've gotten them to your physical store. Because they've already experienced your brand, they are further along in the purchasing journey. So if you are new to all of this, you're probably thinking, what is this retargeting? Well, retargeting is simply advertising to people who have already interacted with your brand. So if you've ever been to a website and then all of a sudden the exact product is showing up in a Google sidebar ad or filling your social feeds, that, my friends, is retargeting. And for you, it is a gold mine. But not all retargeting has to cost you money. And that's what I was saying right at the beginning. If you've been using Google ads or Facebook or Instagram ads for retargeting, maybe you're not doing some of my free things that I'm about to talk to you about. So today I want to talk to you about the different types of retargeting and where and when you would use them, both for online and brick and mortar businesses. So let's start with the one we were just talking about, which is probably the most popular form of retargeting. And it's probably the one that most people are referring to when they talk about remarketing or retargeting. Those words are pretty much interchangeable. And that is social media retargeting. So this is showing ads on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Google, all the places. So before you can do any retargeting, you have to go and insert a small piece of code into your website. Now, for Facebook and Instagram, you'll need the Facebook pixel, and Google has its own code, as does Pinterest. And if you're using an email marketing system, such as something like ActiveCampaign, you'll need to add that pixel as well. But if you are using Klaviyo, which you know is our favorite, and it's got the direct integration with Shopify or BigCommerce or Magento or WooCommerce, don't worry, you are fine. You don't need to add any code because it's all synced up for you. So this little pixel, and I love the way that Facebook describes it, is a piece of code for your website that lets you measure, optimize, and build audiences for your advertising campaigns. And that's exactly what a pixel does. It doesn't matter if it's the Facebook pixel or the Google pixel or the Klaviyo pixel. What it does is it tracks what someone is doing. It lets you measure the outcomes, and then it lets you build audiences and advertise to them. And that is what you do as a marketer. And what I like about the Facebook pixel is that it can track your customer across multiple platforms, and it starts to learn the buying behavior of your customers. This is something that Klaviyo also does. Well, it doesn't do what we call cross-platform data analysis, does start to learn the buying behavior of your customers, but I'm going to get into that shortly. Now, another awesome thing about pixels is that they fire immediately, which means it's collecting the data immediately. So your ads are going to run almost instantly. So if someone leaves your website, boom, over on Facebook, your ad is highly likely to be the second thing that they see. Did you know that? The second post in your Facebook feed is always an ad. Yeah, go and check it out. But if someone's been to your website, it's highly likely that Facebook's going to show them your ad because it is highly relevant, and that's what Facebook wants to do. It wants to give you relevant content. So here are the top 3 ways that I use when it comes to retargeting with paid ads. The first one is to show ads or retarget people who have added things to their cart but not purchased. These people are highly engaged. They've browsed your website, they've clicked add to cart, but they haven't gone ahead and purchased. So these are the people that we want just to come back. And you've probably seen those ads. They usually say something along the lines of, "Hey there, did you forget something?" That is a retargeted ad. So number 1 is to show people who have added to your cart but not purchased. The second top way that I use is to retarget people who visited your website but not purchased. So maybe they didn't add to cart, so you're going to craft a very different ad for those people, and maybe you might show them different products. Whereas in the first case, you would definitely show people who have added to cart the things that they've put in their cart. But people who visited your website but didn't add to cart, you have to have a different strategy for that. But again, these people, you've already used your energy and your money getting them to your website. So these are the people that you need to convert because they convert a lot quicker and they're a lot cheaper. And the third way is, and often people forget this, so this is a very handy tip, is to retarget people who have already purchased from you. And again, you're going to show those people a very different ad. They don't want to be seeing a, "Hey there, did you forget something?" ad. What they want to see is that you know that they've already purchased and that you are a loyal customer. So those 3 again is people who've added to cart but not purchased, people who visited your website and not purchased, and people who have already purchased from you. So those people are very engaged. They're going to require a lot less money to get them over the line and to purchase or to purchase again. I mean, which pair of jeans are you more likely to buy? The ones that you've researched and looked at 15 times in the last month, or some random pair that come up in a Google search? I know which pair I'm going to choose, and if the ad's in front of me at the right time, I'm going to buy the jeans that I've already looked at, aren't I? So you can see the benefit of spending a little bit of money to get your products back in front of your potential customers, right? So your first retargeting placement is those paid ads, so your social media and your Google platforms. But there is more than one way to, I was going to say skin a cat, but that's not a very nice thing, is it? There's more than one way to market to a customer. And my second retargeting option is, and probably the one I love the most because it is essentially free, is using personalized email marketing. And this, my friends, is just another one of the key reasons that we use and recommend Klaviyo. And I'll make sure that I put an ambassador link to Klaviyo into the show notes for you guys. So last week's episode, we talked about getting a customer's email, right? As soon as you possibly can. And if you haven't listened to that episode, I highly recommend that you go and listen to it because it's like step 1. This is step 2. So once you have your customer's email, then you can start to market to them. The quicker you get that email, the quicker you can start marketing to them. And one of Klaviyo's superpowers, in fact, is having the inbuilt tracking pixel. So it is able to track what pages and what products a customer or a not yet customer has viewed. Doesn't matter if they're not yet a customer, as long as you've got their email address, it starts collecting data. And with the click of a button, you can turn on an automated email that will populate with either one or a selection of products that they've looked at. So you can do the same thing as a social media ad, but for free, straight to their inbox. That's pretty fancy, hey? So as I said in last week's episode, getting that email address as soon as possible after they hit your website is paramount. But we don't want to do it in a way that's going to eat into our profits. So like I said, I'll pop a link in the show notes. Head back to last week's episode on how to build your customer database without eating into your profits before you start on the retargeting. So the first option we had was the social media and the paid ads. The second one we had was using email marketing, grabbing that customer email and using the inbuilt functions to remarket to your customer. And the third option, and this is really good if you have a bricks and mortar business, because you're probably thinking, well, all this sounds great, Sal. I can send emails to my people who've bought, but that's not really going to change my bottom line. Well, again, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, jump back in and listen to it about how to build your customer database without eating into your profits, where I give you some tips for online and offline businesses on how to get more emails. And this is what you need to be doing. But don't worry, all is not lost. You can actually create and track ad campaigns for people who've come into your store based off of an ad. What's that? Yep, what did I just say? Yes, you can actually create and track campaigns for people who've been into your physical bricks and mortar store when you've already used an ad to get there. So I don't have time to get into the intricacies of how to do that on this episode. If you jump into Business Manager in your Facebook ads, you'll actually see an option on the conversion tab, which is over on the right-hand side, which is called Store Traffic. Now you will have to go up and set up some info about your store before you can run the ads. But essentially, once you've run the ads, you can upload your point of sale data, your point of sales data. You can upload the data, and Facebook will actually be able to correlate the data. And I'm guessing this is done with some geolocating stuff, but it's all the stuff in the background. But it actually can correlate the sales that you've had in store versus the ads that you've been running. So a little bit of Facebook woo-woo magic going on in the background. So if you're running ads to get people to come into your store, you can run remarketing ads to those people as well. You actually don't need to have a website. But best of all, and this one I think is just a little bit next level, but a whole bunch of awesome, is that if you have multiple stores, you can target different ads and different products depending on your inventory availability in those different areas. So if a customer is close to one store, it will see products available at that store. But if they move to a closer proximity to another one of your stores, they will see different ads, and that can even be different pricing. Now, as I said before, that is probably a little bit more complex, but do not think for a moment that if you only have a bricks and mortar store, that you can't leverage digital strategies. Because the next thing that you can do is to upload your customer database into Facebook as an audience. So you can retarget the people who've been in your store, and this works for your website as well. You can upload the people who've shopped in at your website, and you can create an audience. And so if you don't have that integration with something like Klaviyo that creates audiences based on your customers, you can go old school. You can just upload a CSV file, and then you can retarget those customers. Now, of course, you won't be able to get as granular and show them specific products, but you will still be able to market to them. So let's quickly just recap those 4 different options. The first one is to use your paid social media ads based on people who've added to cart and not purchased, or visited your website and not purchased, or people who have already purchased from you. The second was to make sure that you are maximizing your email service provider. You only have to pay a flat fee once a month, and so you can send as many emails as you want in that time. And we all know that email has a 122% ROI compared to social media. So this should actually be number 1. This should be the first thing that you should be trying. Retargeting option number 3 was for those brick and mortar businesses to retarget people who've been to their store based on the sales. And then retargeting option number 4, which was for both bricks and mortar and for online stores, is to retarget your customers by uploading a list of people who have bought directly into Facebook. So those are what we call hot leads. They're the people who are highly likely to come back and buy from you again, which means that getting them to convert is super cheap. So hopefully that's cleared up a little bit of mystery around what retargeting or remarketing looks like for retail and e-commerce stores. And if you found this interesting and you'd love some more in-depth help on how to recover those lost sales, because remember, 96% of people aren't going to buy from you on the first time that they visit, but you want that money in your pocket. Imagine what if you could just get 30% of those sales, lost sales. Imagine if you could get 30% of those lost sales back into your bank account. What would that do for your business? Well, if you want some help on how to do that, I actually walk you through the steps that you can take to put that into place in your retail or e-commerce business in my workbook, which is geniusly titled Recovering Lost Sales. And you can find it over at selinaknight.com/shop. If you go to the workbook section, just look at the Recovering Lost Sales. There's actually a little video that shows you everything that's inside. And really, you only have to make one more sale to pay for the price of the book. So head over to selinaknight.com/shop, check out the Recover Lost Sales workbook, and I will see you next week where I'm going to be talking about more advanced tips if you're already using retargeting. I'm going to give you several strategies to optimize your retargeting campaigns, both on and offline. So until then, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here, same time, same place next week. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.